Hi everyone. I hope everyone is back and I hope that you had a nice lunch. Yes, good. So I know that after the lunch, it's not so easy to focus the mind. The mind likes to go a little bit dozing off. So I thought we'll first do a few questions if there are. And there is one question from Liz. So I'll start there. And if something comes up in the meantime for you, just put it in the chat box. Okay. So Liz asks, if I look at a nice cupboard and see a white cupboard that holds things, is that a conventional truth or a conceptual mind? So first of all, when we see something, the first moment is the sensory perception. It's the sense consciousness, the eye sense consciousness, seeing a cupboard, seeing a white cupboard. Seeing a white cupboard, maybe you also see the shelves, so that sense consciousness perceives many qualities of the object. And then soon after that, the mental consciousness starts to comment. Oh, that's the cupboard. Yeah, I know that cupboard. I've seen the cupboard many times. Let's see what is in the cupboard. You know, anything that comes that is commenting, that is the mental consciousness, but the conceptual consciousness. Any thought that we have over something is the conceptual consciousness. So then when you start thinking, so to the eye consciousness, although everything, all the characteristics of the object appear to your sense consciousness, there is also the appearance of true existence, the appearance of inherent existence. And so the sense, if then you start reflecting, well, where is this cupboard coming from, and who made the cupboard, and how was it put together, what are the causes and the conditions? That mind that is thinking is, again, conceptual mind. And the conceptual mind, what it is doing, it is creating an antidote to the appearance of true existence that you have. We have the appearance of true existence, then we have the belief of true existence. And with our sense consciousness, we cannot see something different. So the sense consciousness is not the one who is going to help us to change the mind in terms of seeing the nature of reality. What we need in order to change the nature, seeing the nature of reality, we need our conceptual consciousness. We need our rational consciousness. We need to apply many reasonings. So we can say, that appears to me like that, but does it exist in actuality like that? It cannot exist like that, because if it were to exist like that, these and these are the consequences. How does it exist? It exists, for instance, independence of causes and conditions. And you think about all these causes and conditions that bring this cupboard as to where it is right now. Doing that weakens your belief in true existence. So it is not that you're going to see the cupboard in a different way. What you see is not going to change, but how you think about it and how you hold onto it, that is going to change. And that is not going to change overnight, right? We have to apply this again and again and again. You know, when you walk around with each and every object, you can check. I see a tree. Tree, what is tree? Is that a real tree? If that would be a real tree, if that were a tree from its own side, if that a tree would exist independently of my mind, I should be able to find the tree inside that object. And then you start looking, then which part is the tree? What is the tree? And you track each and every part of the tree, and you cannot find any tree, and you think the tree is not living there. So tree is coming from our mind. And so this we have to do over and over and over again. And at a certain point, you can start catching yourself. Right? Because we have been habituating with this mind, thinking in this way since beginningless time. So these are very, very strong habits. And the appearance of things in a certain way, that is what we will eliminate at the end. That's the last thing to be eliminated. But what we first need to do is the belief in everything. You know, if you listen how strong we believe, even in words, you know, even more when there is fear involved. We just have to look into the world today. And I know you, Adelaide, you're in a very good place. But there are many places in the world where people, you know, there is more fear created than that is based on reality. And when that arises in the mind, people stop thinking, and people do whatever you tell them to do because they're so afraid. That is believing. You know, you hear something, there is fear, which means the rational mind is not present, which means I believe it. So what is going to help us is the rational mind. Is this really true? Is this really true? And we have to keep questioning again and again. Is this really true? If it is true like that, this and this will be the consequence. And so then when you find mistakes, you have to say that it's not really true. If that is not really true, then what is true? And then you start searching for what is true. Okay, Liz, is that all right? Okay, cool. So we'll do a meditation later on this session because some people asked for that. India had a question. Yes, India.
Hello, Jamyang.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, good. Could you just please go through the 3 layers of self? I just didn't quite get that down in my notes. It wasn't so clear for me.
Okay, I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
So these are, in terms of the self, we're holding on to a self that doesn't exist in actuality. And so what yogis try to describe is the self that we are holding on to, and then the self that doesn't exist, and the self that does exist. And so in terms of the self that doesn't exist, we can differentiate between 3 types of self. The first self is the unitary, permanent, independent self. And this is the self that is posited by I say the Hindus, but maybe I should say the non-Buddhists at Buddhist time in India. So the positive self that is unitary, permanent, and they do that on the basis of when they investigate internally, they cannot find a self. And so they say, although I feel this self, this is not my real self, but there must be a self, you know. And so they posit that outside themselves as Atman, and they want to become one with Atman, or one with God, one with the ultimate. So they say, this is not my real self, but this one is real. And then Buddhism refutes that self. Buddhism says such a self doesn't exist. And there are many reasons, you know, but I cannot go there today to the reasons. So you have to take that from me now. So the self outside of the aggregates, the self that is not one with the aggregates, that is posited by the non-Buddhist, doesn't exist according to the Buddha. That's the first thing that he refers to. There is no such a self. Then if we look internally and we look what kind of self appears there, then the most core self that appears is the self that is self-sufficient, substantially existent. Self-sufficient, substantially existent. So it has two characteristics. One, it is substantially existent. And when we feel strong emotion, we can feel that self, that I, as if it is a substance inside us. No, we can feel this ball in our stomach, or we can feel this in our heart, something is really holding tight, and we feel that's me, that's the self. That feels like a substance. And then on top of that, that self appears to be in control of the body and the mind. That self seems to be the one who's making all the decisions, that is determining what is going to happen and what is not going to happen. And so all Buddhist schools, they investigate that appearance of the self-sufficient, substantially existent self. And they say, such a self does not exist. And then they have many reasons for that. And then there are schools that say that self-sufficient, substantially existent self doesn't exist, but the self exists inherently. There is a self. And I'm not sure how the lower schools posit the self. I looked that up. So they posit the self. The self exists inherently. And then the Prasangika school says such an inherently existent self, which is synonymous with a truly existent self, that doesn't exist either. Because if there would be an inherently existent self somewhere in our body and our mind, we should be able to find that entity. Inherent existence means independent of anything, independent of the parts, independent of causes and conditions, independent of the mind. So if something like that exists, then it is something that is not produced, not created. It is permanent. It has been there forever. It doesn't change. It is not dependent upon causes and conditions. So it is independent. It also doesn't depend upon my mind perceiving it. If such a self would exist, I should be able to find it. That is, according to Prasangika, what it means to exist inherently. It is findable in the object. So when we start looking for such a self, you know, we first check the whole body. Maybe we can do that in the meditation. We check the whole body, nothing to find. We check the mind, nothing to find. So the I is not findable on the aggregates. That non-findability proves or shows that it is not existing inherently. So then you have to say, then how does it exist? It exists by being merely imputed independence upon the 5 aggregates. Is that all right, India? Okay, cool. So there's one more question from Victoria. On the path of enlightenment, do we just understand that we see things through the conceptual mind, or do we start to see the ultimate? Yes, so I will go through the path of enlightenment and explain exactly how we start to realize the ultimate truth. So we'll do that this afternoon. How can the self exist if it is dependent upon being born, which is conditioned? So there are different selves, right? If the self is being dependent upon being born, maybe I don't really understand your question. So we have a core self that we experience independence upon the body and the mind. And that core self, that dissolves at the end of this life. And then there is a more subtle self. There's an extremely subtle mind, independence upon which I can impute I as well. And that extremely subtle mind goes from life to life. So then when I take a new rebirth, that extremely subtle mind becomes first a subtle mind and then the coarse mind. And independence on that, I still say self. So I have a different body, but I still call myself me and I. I did that in my last life with the body that I had in my last life. And I do that now because due to the continuity of the extremely subtle mind and whatever arises from that extremely subtle mind, independence of that, I can call myself I. Let me see if I have that right. Does that make sense? Yeah? Is the subtle mind permanent? No, also the extremely subtle mind is impermanent. Because it is changing moment to moment to moment. You know, moments of consciousness, they follow each other up. And so how can the I exist? It doesn't exist in that continuum, but it exists independent on that continuum. That is very, very subtle, you know, so to grasp that and to really, but I think it is important to see that when I'm present here with my consciousness, and because I see things as being inherently existent and therefore separated from me, independence of that, the I arises. And independence on the I arising, also the other arises. When I realize the nature of reality, that I do not see any I. I do not see any separation. But that is our conventional reality, which is determined by the concealer, the conception of true existence. Is that all right for now? All right. So this afternoon, I want to look into how we realize the true truth. Let me see, I had a little bit before that. Oh yeah, let me do that too. So we spoke this morning about what is the etymology of ultimate truth. And we said ultimate refers to the sublime object, to the ultimate object. And it refers to the object of a superior in the exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise. One who is realizing emptiness directly. ultimate refers to the object of that mind, and the truth refers to the fact that that mind realizes the object to exist in the way it appears. Because it is realized in the way it appears, it is the truth. And so the conventional truth means literally all concealer or thoroughly obscuring. And it refers to the ignorance that is the conception of true existence, which obscures seeing reality. And truth refers to, whatever is true for that concealer. So when we see something and it is true, that is a conventional truth. We have a concealer, but what we see is true for the concealer. Conventional truth. So how do we define something as being a conventional truth? Or how can we say, well, this is a real conventional truth? Who is doing that? And who is certifying the ultimate truth? So it is, I'll give you the definition. I'm not sure that says much more than you already know. But the definition of a conventional truth is that which is posited the definition of the conventional truth is an object realized, found by valid awareness of ordinary beings. So ordinary beings validate conventional truth, right? Your mom has told you a lot. This is this and that is that, and we call this this and we call that that. And what you learned from your mom, you pass that on to your children. That is valid, right? We're not going to say that doesn't exist or that is not really true. That is on the conventional level valid. Although whatever appears to us appears to be true for the concealer, which is the conception of true existence, in actuality, it is false, because the object does not exist in the way it appears to us. Right? We learn this from the yogis who have realized emptiness. They tell us, you believe in that. For you, it appears to be true, but in actuality, it is false. And then they give us many reasons why it is like that. And by familiarizing with these reasonings and by applying them, we slowly can weaken that conception of grasping into existence. And with that, the concealer becomes less obstructive. And then we can start seeing how things really exist. So according to Chanakirti, he says ordinary beings, they are blind. It is like their eyes are covered by the film of cataracts, the cataracts of ignorance. So when we talk about conventional truth or truth for the concealer, they are synonymous. Truth for the concealer. So that's conventional truth. So what about ultimate truth? Ultimate truth is not an object of the concealer, because it is the concealer that obstructs us from seeing the ultimate truth. It is the conception of true existence which makes that we cannot see the ultimate truth. So therefore, ultimate truth is not an object of conventional awareness. So the definition of ultimate truth is an object found by a valid cognizer, distinguishing the final nature of phenomena. An object found by a valid cognizer, distinguishing the final nature of phenomena. So someone is really interested in understanding the ultimate nature of phenomena and applies all the reasoning, does all the analysis, develops the qualities that we need in order to enter properly in meditation, and then realizes the final nature. They find the final nature. That is the definition of the ultimate truth. So is the ultimate truth exclusively something that can only be realized by superiors, by those who see the ultimate truth directly? And then we can say, although that the superior or the wisdom in equipoise of that superior is posited as the finder of the ultimate truth, that doesn't exclude ordinary beings from being able to find the ultimate truth. So for instance, the Bodhisattva on the path of accumulation and then on the path of preparation, who have studied emptiness in the proper way and have the correct view of emptiness in their mind, they can also realize the ultimate truth. But they don't realize it by seeing the ultimate truth directly. They realize it by seeing the ultimate truth through a conception, through a meaning generality. Right? If there is something that I cannot see, for instance, past and future lives, I cannot see past and future lives. How do I know they exist? It is what we call a hidden object. Our sense perception cannot perceive hidden objects. Hidden objects are hidden, right? So how do we connect with hidden objects? We can use our rational mind, and then with that mind, try to make an idea about how that must look like and why. And independence, when we apply correct reasoning, somehow that helps us to generate a correct conception about reality in our mind. And then we meditate on that, and we meditate on that very strongly with a single pointed focus. And then independence on that, at a certain point, it's like that conception is the only thing that is in between you seeing it and the reality itself. So due to your focus, at a certain point, that conception drops away and you can see it directly. And so our conceptual mind helps us to get to the direct realization of something that we cannot see in the moment. So as ordinary beings, we can already have a correct understanding of emptiness, and we can even have a correct realization of emptiness. But that is not a direct realization. It is we call it, you can say an indirect realization, or you can say it is a realization through meaning generality, through a conception. Is that right? So ultimate truth is the domain of the superior, of those who have realized empty directly, but also ordinary beings can develop a proper cognizer, a valid cognizer with respect to emptiness. It's just not, they cannot see it directly, they see it through a conception. And then similar, we can say, ordinary beings are the ones who are the finders of the conventional truth. But that doesn't mean that superiors do not realize conventional truth, right? Because also superiors, when they're not a meditative equipoise, they are living in the same world as we do. And they also have valid cognizers of conventionalities, realizing the conventional truth. So realizing the conventional truth is not exclusively the only thing that superiors are doing. And being totally realizing only the conventional truth is not the only thing that ordinary sentient beings are doing. So it is not an exclusive object for ordinary beings, the conventional truth, and the ultimate truth is not an exclusive object for superiors. They are mixed, depending on what you're doing in the moment with the mind. So in order to have a valid cognizer that of conventionalities, realizing, for instance, a pot or a cup or a car, you do not have to realize emptiness. But then, in order to realize that pot or car is a conventional truth, you must have somehow realized emptiness. Because in order to, for us, cup, car, everything that is around us is the only truth. And it is true. What we are seeing appears to be true. Only once we have realized emptiness and we come out of that realization can we see that things start to appear in a different way, and I'm sure you have heard things appear like an illusion, like a mirage, like a dream, because the conception of true existence has been strongly opposed. Then when things appear more illusion-like, then we realize that's not a real truth. What I'm seeing is not true. In actuality, it is false, because I just saw the truth. I just realized the ultimate truth. Only after that I can see that the conventional truth is a conventional truth and is false. All right, I hope that doesn't crack your mind too much. So let's go into how we realize the true truth. When do we realize the ultimate truth and when do we realize the conventional truth? So let's see where we want to go eventually. We want to get to Buddhahood. And the characteristic of the Buddha is that he realizes the two truths simultaneously. He realizes conventional truth and ultimate truth as it is at the same time. This is one of the main distinguishing features of a Buddha, seeing the two truths simultaneously. Before Buddhahood, you cannot do that. Impossible. So in order to see how we progress on the path, we can go to you all received the handout, I hope. I'm not sure if I should I share that with you or not. Do you have that all? Or do you want me to put it on the screen? Okay, cool. I can see people showing me. You have it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we start at the bottom of the page. We haven't entered the path yet, right? We are the beginners of the beginners. We are preparing our mind so that we make our mind ready to enter into the path. So while we're doing that, is we listen to the teachings, we develop our wisdom mind, we develop our compassionate mind in order to get to the point where the mind is ready to enter the path. Entering the path, it's not that there is somewhere a path that we can walk on. The path is in the mind. The path is distinguished by types of realizations that follow each other in a certain sequence. And these realizations together, you can see them as a path, right? So there's no other path than your realizations in your mind. Okay. So we are trying to create merit. We are trying to understand emptiness. We are trying to develop compassion and loving kindness. And the more we train on that, you know, they say that when we have the predisposition for the Mahayana path, they say that most of the bodhisattvas who are from the beginning in the Mahayana lineage, they realize emptiness conceptually, even before they enter the path, before they generate bodhicitta. So they're very smart, and they think a lot about the nature of reality. And they think about how things do not exist independently. And they think about dependent arising. And then independence, and at a certain point, their mind is so cultivated that they see, oh, nothing exists inherently. The moment they see that, they know, because nothing exists inherently, everything is possible. Because nothing exists inherently, I can achieve enlightenment. Because nothing exists inherently, I can achieve the mind that wishes all sentient beings to be free from suffering. And not only that, that is willing to work for the benefit of sentient beings, to take on the suffering of sentient beings and do whatever is needed to give them happiness. I'm willing to even think about generating bodhicitta, independence on my realization of emptiness before entering the path. And maybe you have heard about that emptiness is very difficult to understand intellectually. But once you get it, it's not so difficult to realize. But bodhicitta is not so difficult intellectually, right? We all understand the teachings of bodhicitta, but it is very difficult to realize. Right? Is that really possible? Why would I do that? Too many things to overcome the self-cherishing and the self-grasping mind. But as soon as we see the truth, we know this can be done. This can be done. And so then we enter, with that realization, before entering the path, we exert ourselves, or the bodhisattva always, from the beginning in the Mahayana lineage, he or she exerts him or herself in order to generate the mind of bodhicitta. The mind of bodhicitta is the mark where we enter the path. And you know, there are different minds of bodhicitta. Sometimes we have moments that we experience the mind of enlightenment. And we do that after practicing. So this is called the contrived mind of enlightenment. But at a certain point, when we practice and practice, that mind spontaneously arises. That spontaneously arising is called uncontrived mind of bodhicitta. And that mind is so strong that it is present, manifest, 24 hours a day. That is the mark where we can say, I enter into the path. This is the beginning of really exerting each and every part of our energy towards becoming enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you see, there is this call that you enter into the path of accumulation that is on the left side of the page in the first column. And then at the right side of the page, you see the marks where we enter into the next page. So I'm now on the path of accumulation, and I have realized emptiness through a conception, not yet directly, but it is giving me the motivation to engage in all the listening and the studying that I need to do in order to develop, to generate merit. It also encourages me, or it helps me to develop the mind of calm abiding, right? If I really want to go for enlightenment, I have left behind all the worldly concerns. Right? That's like, that comes together. You cannot have a uncontrived bodhicitta and still be concerned about worldly things. That doesn't go together. Once the uncontrived mind of enlightenment has been generated in the mind, there is no worry about what is happening on the worldly level with you, or I'm not sure about anybody else, but definitely with you. You're not attached to the things of this life anymore. So you have that mind that knows emptiness conceptually. You have the mind that is willing to work for the benefit of sentient beings until you are you want to develop the state of enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. You engage in listening to the teachings, you engage in contemplating, you develop calm abiding, you develop all kinds of concentrations in order to make the mind more flexible. You can only do that when you have no cravings for samsara anymore. And then at a certain point, you develop such a quality in the mind, the calm abiding has become so strong, and you also have been analyzing more on emptiness. And you somehow can bring the calm abiding and a special insight on emptiness, you can bring them together into the union. You can apply them at the same time. The moment you can do that they say you enter into the path of preparation. And so in the path of preparation, you practice this again and again and again. You go into the union of calm abiding and special insight, focused upon emptiness, and you stay there. And then at a certain point, you come out of meditation. Maybe you study more, maybe you engage in other kinds of activity where you make the mind more flexible. And then you go back to your meditation, which is the union of calm abiding and special insight focused upon emptiness. The object that appears to your mind is still the conception, the conception of the lack of inherent existence, the conception of emptiness. That is what you're meditating upon. You haven't seen it directly. And so you go in and out of meditation, and you make the meditation stronger and stronger. And at a certain point, the union of calm abiding and special insight has become so focused and strong and correct that that conception of emptiness, that conception which is a lack of inherent existence, somehow gets penetrated by your calm abiding, by your focused mind. Or some people say the conception drops away, and then you can see emptiness directly. That moment is called, you enter into the path of seeing. You see the nature of reality directly. So then you become an Arya being or a superior being. You are accessing a reality which is not accessible for ordinary sentient beings. You are not ordinary anymore once you realize emptiness directly. So you see at the left side the path of seeing with the yellow color. So once you see the nature of reality directly, what happens in the mind is that all the wrong conceptions that we have about what reality could be, all the wrong beliefs that we have due to, having done studies which are not in accordance with reality, they're all gone. And these are called the acquired afflicted obscurations. Acquired due to study. You can study, when you study emptiness, there are many wrong views related to emptiness. And so, we always will have periods that we're not sure what is true, what is not true. And so you might sometimes go you hold something to be true, what is not true, or you think something is not true, which in actuality is true. We have to find that middle, right? That takes time. So we have periods that we might hold on to too much, or where we negate too much. But the moment you see emptiness directly, the moment you see the nature of the mind directly, all these ideas about reality which are not correct, all gone. 100% sure that they are not correct. They cannot arise in your mind anymore. So you develop a certainty about the nature of reality, a certainty that you have never felt before, a certainty that is so strong. Oh my gosh, I'm so certain. I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche asked Khandrolaa, can you say something about your realization of emptiness? How is it? Are you still wondering? And she says, I'm so certain. That's the characteristic of having seen reality. And so then we go to the UPs and the LPs. That is already on the path of seeing. So how do you go into the path of seeing? The UP is called that's a little bit of detail, the uninterrupted path of seeing, and then the LP is the liberated path. So in the uninterrupted path, what you do is you generate the wisdom mind that is opposing your delusions. And so, it goes very, very quick. These are more, I think they're more conceptual isolations than that we can see them happening in reality. But the uninterrupted path is the moment that you generate the antidote to the delusions. And the liberated path is where the antidote has been generated in a way that the delusions subside and cannot arise anymore. Right? So then after that, you see also a period of time, and that is when you come out of meditation. And so then once you have realized the nature of reality one time, and all the acquired afflictive obscurations that are related to wrong views about the nature of reality, you start familiarizing your mind with that direct realization of emptiness. And so you enter into the path of meditation. And let me have a look, the path of meditation. And so I'm not sure how that all practically works, but they say after having eliminated the acquired obscurations, we have to eliminate what is the real cause of samsara, which is the innate grasping at true existence. Innate because we have been doing this for lifetimes, not just as human beings, also as animals, also as other types of beings. That grasping is there for each and every type of sentient beings. And so that is the main thing that we need to eliminate, not just the wrong ideas that we have, but this innate grasping that is more in our heart. You can't see it where I'm touching, but it's somewhere down here. It's not up here, right? So we do that by going into realizing emptiness again and again and again. And so we are realizing emptiness on the Mahayana path in a way that it is conjoined by bodhicitta, right? And this bodhicitta gives the realization a certain power. So then they say we have 10 layers of innate grasping at true existence. So we have 10, we have to go through 10, no, I said that in the wrong way. Let me do that again. So in the path of seeing, there are 10 what they call grounds or bhumis. And on every bhumi, we eliminate part of the obscuration. And so all these names, all these grounds, they have a name. And if you would read, study, maybe a better word, the Madhyamakavatara, the Supplement to the Middle Way, or Illumination of Thought from Lama Tsongkhapa, which is a commentary on the Supplement to the Middle Way, then you can see how Chandrakirti has presented the 10 path and what perfection is perfected on each and every path. So on the first and path and grounds, they are synonymous, but let me keep talking about ground. So on the first ground, it's called the, now I'm actually wondering if that is true, what I've written there. Okay, I'll have to look deeper into that. So we go through 10 grounds. And this morning I talked about, we have 2 types of afflictions or 2 types of obscurations. One is the afflictive obscurations, and the next one is the obscurations to knowledge. And so the afflictive obscurations, these are the conceptions to inherent existence or the conceptions to true existence. We remove them gradually in the first 7 grounds. And we do that by going into meditative equipoise, realizing emptiness directly, and then coming out of meditative equipoise. Outside of meditative equipoise, they say the Bodhisattva engages in activities in order to create more merit. Because for each ground, for each bhumi, for each elimination of a layer of afflictive obscurations, we need more merit. So we create that merit when we come out of meditation. And so you can think about the Bodhisattva engaging in the 6 perfections, but also the Bodhisattva, meditating more on emptiness, going inside into the realization and coming out of it, going into the meditation, coming out of it. That also creates a lot of merit. Then at a certain point, the merit is enough to eliminate another layer of afflictive obscurations. And then the Bodhisattva goes again into the meditation. And then that meditation we call an uninterrupted path, because that meditation has the strength to eliminate a level of obscurations. And then we come out of that meditation, and then we are on the next ground. Then we start again, creating merit by engaging in virtuous activities, by engaging in the 6 perfections, by going into meditation on emptiness, coming out of that again and again and again, until we have enough merit so that our realization of emptiness is strong enough to remove the next layer of afflictive obscurations. And so we do that 7 times because we have 7 layers. and I actually think they say we have 10 layers, but then on the last time we removed the last 3 or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The first 7 grounds, we eliminate the afflictive obscurations. We eliminate the conception of true existence. When we are in meditation on emptiness, what we see is the ultimate truth. Then we come out of meditation, and what we see is the conventional truth. We cannot see them together because we still have obscurations that prevent us from seeing the two truths simultaneously. So then once we have eliminated all the conceptions of true existence, we are on the 8th ground. We have arrived on the 8th ground, and these are called the pure grounds, the uncontaminated grounds, because there's no more conception of true existence. But we still have the appearance of true existence, which means that outside of meditation, things still appear to you as being truly existent. But there is nothing in your mind that believes that. Nothing. No grasping, nothing, not even very, very, very subtle. All that is completely removed. So you still see things as real, but you do not believe that they are real. You actually know very well that they are not real. And so the more you have realized that things are actually not real, the more things will appear as illusions, as dreams, as not really true. You know, you can just see it's not really true. It's like it's not real. It's just not real. And so then we're on the 8th ground, and we keep engaging in the same activity, practicing more meditation of emptiness, engaging in virtuous activities, engaging in the sex perfections. And then when we have enough merit, we go again into that meditative equipoise, which then has the strength to start removing the obscurations to knowledge. And the obscurations to knowledge are removed in the next 3 grounds, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th ground. And the obscurations to knowledge refers to the appearances of true existence. And so then at the end of the 10th ground, you see an uninterrupted path. And so that path, we can generate that path if we have enough merit in order to totally eliminate the most subtle layer of the appearances of true existence, or the imprints of true existence. And so we go into that meditation, and we are realizing the nature of reality. We are realizing emptiness. And then they say that we will never arise from that meditation. We will never come out of that meditative equipoise. But then, at the same time, because we have removed all the obscurations, all the afflictive obscurations, and the knowledge obscurations, then when we open our eyes, you know, or maybe I'm not sure even if we have to open our eyes, but at the same time, while being equipoise, focused upon them at the same, we can see, and from that totally removed the concealer, which is not just the conception of true existence, but also the appearance of true existence, all removed from the mind. And there is nothing that prevents us from seeing things as they are, ultimately and conventionally. So this is how we move through the path. Doesn't make any sense? Does that help? So that means until we achieve Buddhahood, you know, we will only see one or the other. We will see either ultimate reality or we see conventional reality. We can never bring them together. We can never see them together. So when we start developing the mind, you know, when we start thinking about this, we sometimes think about how does conventionality, how does it exist? And you get some kind of a feel for it, and then you think, oh, but I lost ultimate reality. And then you start thinking about what is ultimate reality. And as soon as you get a feel for what it maybe is, you totally lose conventional reality. We cannot hold them together. It's like they're two different things for us. That's normal because the way our mind works at the moment. We can only do this or we can do that, but we cannot put them together. Right? It's important to know. Because if you get glimpses from the ultimate reality, you know, and then you fall back into conventional reality, you just don't get it. It's like, why did it happen? Why can I not stay there? You know, but the mind will flip because we're so habituated to identifying with the conventional nature of the mind. So we need to familiarize ourselves with the ultimate nature of the mind again and again and again. And then we need to familiarize with how things exist conventionally. Not how they appear to us, but how they exist in actuality. And we need to do both. So we can say that, having listened to this, there are three types of being. One type of being we can strongly identify with that is those who perceive things to be true and believe it is true. So things appear as true and we believe it is true. That's us. And then there are beings who perceive things to be true, things appear to be true, but they do not believe it is true. And so this belief already is shaking from the moment we realize emptiness by conception, even before entering into the path. You know, we already, once you have realized that things do not exist in the way they appear, your belief is shaken. You cannot go back to that old belief. It's impossible. No matter what people do to you, you cannot say, okay, I'll believe it again. You cannot. Once you have woken up and you have seen how things are, you cannot go back. You cannot unseen or pretend it wasn't there. You cannot. Because that wisdom mind is like a light, you know, shining. And it won't stop shining, no matter what your thoughts, whether they like it or not, whether they want it or not, whether they think it's good or not, doesn't matter. That wisdom mind is so strong. It will shine through everything. This mind, we also won't lose that after this life, you know. The wisdom that we generate in our mind, even the understandings, I think, but once we bring that understanding more to deeper levels of our consciousness, we take that with us to the next life, The merit that we create by developing our wisdom does not get destroyed by, for instance, anger, like the merit from virtuous actions, the merits from giving, the merits from practicing ethics, they can get destroyed by becoming angry. But the merit generated in dependence upon wisdom, they don't get destroyed. So whatever attainment you have, you take with you. And yes, the next life, when causes and conditions arise, that merit will, or that wisdom, that will start to, that will arise very quickly, right? It's like, oh, I know this. This feels so natural to me. I must have done this before. Yeah, this is what I believe. It's just woken up and there it is, right? So sometimes it can be manifest for a while, or maybe even for a long time, and then something happens and it wakes up, and there it is. Wow, I see it all. Right? We won't lose that. So there is a question that says, I can understand that what I see and believe is not reality, but how I feel can be something completely, totally different. I'm assuming practicing meditation will help with this. See and believe. So you still feel that it is reality? Is that what you're saying? You feel it is real. The suffering that we feel, what we experience, there is a reality there, right? We're not going to say what I feel is not real, but often straight after the feeling, we start commenting, oh, this happened because of that, and why he said that because of this. That is not real. That is you making up a story. But if you keep indulging in that, and then you start projecting that onto other people, the next day you see them, you believe that they really did that to you, or that was really their motivation, or that is coming totally from your mind. So it is the mind commenting that is more the problem than the feeling, and it is not that when I feel something, I'm going to say, oh, it's not real, it appears like this, but it doesn't exist really like that. No, what you feel. But the commenting on the feeling, that doesn't exist the way it appears. What we think about why we're feeling it, what we are feeling, that doesn't exist in the way it appears. So I'm not saying feeling exists in the way it appears, right? But I do think that in order to have a healthy mind, we need to allow the feelings to be whatever they are. And we need to experience them and connect with them. And then the better we understand reality as it is, the more we will create causes for more pleasant feelings to arise in the mind, or the more we will we create the causes for more subtle feelings to arise in the mind. Right? What we want to get rid of is our reactions to the feelings. Feelings are still there when we become a Buddha. These are part of the mind. They're in every moment of mind. So that's not something that we want to eliminate, but we want to we want to eventually. But the main thing is to look at your reactions to the feelings. Is that all right? So I think, where we are now, we can say my feelings are real, but what I think about it is not necessarily real. It's most likely not real. Is that all right, Victoria? Let me see what else I had. Or we can do this afternoon. So this afternoon, oh, we're already in this afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm still in the morning. So after the, we will do a meditation now. And then after the break, I'm going to talk about how conventional truth and ultimate truth relate to each other with respect to one object. All right, so we have seen how we realize it. And now what part of an object is the ultimate truth, or what part of the object is the conventional truth? And how are they related to each other? Okay. And then the other questions that come up, you know, feel free. You can never ask stupid questions. You can never ask too often, or can you say that again? You can never, you know, feel free to do whatever you need to do in order to get more clarity yourself. That's the main thing. Don't hold back. Don't judge yourself even before you ask the questions. Oh no, I can't ask that. That's probably stupid. You know, there are no stupid questions here. Just questions. All right. So are you okay when we go to meditation? We'll do a meditation to relax the mind a little bit, and then maybe we investigate a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm gonna let myself be inspired by all of you. I'm just looking at the time. We have a break at 10:30, right? Not 11, at 10:30. Judy? I think it is. All right. So find yourself a posture that is conducive for meditation. You can sit on a cushion, you can sit on a chair, or if you have some physical problems, you can also lay down. And when you sit on a chair or a cushion, it is important to have your back straight. When the back is straight, energy can move freely up and down the spine. And sitting with the back straight also helps for the delusions to naturally subside. Focus your mind on your body. And it is okay if your mind wanders through your body. It doesn't have to stay fixed on one place. But you let your mind rest on your body. And when you feel that your mind can stay with your body, you can focus the mind a little bit more by observing your breath. Either by observing the rising and falling of your abdomen every time when you breathe in and breathe out, or by observing the air at your nostrils. And then think about your life. How often you have tried to achieve something or to accomplish something and it didn't work out. Or there have been times that you wanted something to happen and it didn't happen. Can you remember how you treated yourself? Maybe you blamed yourself or you beat yourself up. Or maybe you started thinking there was something wrong with me. Oh, I did it wrong again. Or maybe you used it to feed your belief, well, I'm not good enough. Therefore, I don't get that, or I don't achieve that. Feel how painful that was. And so now you know that we are ignorant with respect to reality. Things appear to us in a certain way, but exist in a totally different way. And that's not our fault. That's our condition, but not our fault. But it is a condition that can be frustrating, because maybe you want to see reality. Maybe you want, of course, you want to do it right. You want to do the things that are needed, but you can't, not yet. But yes, it's frustrating. Yes, often we try to achieve something and it doesn't happen. We have expectations and they're not fulfilled. So try to really see that that is not a personal fault. Like a handicap that we are born with. And if you really understand that handicap well, you can expect things to go wrong. You can expect sometimes not to succeed. You can expect that you don't always get what you want. To overcome that handicap, getting angry doesn't help. Pushing ourselves doesn't help. Saying to ourselves, you can do it, just try harder, doesn't help. But what can help is when we have full understanding of the handicap, how it works, how it prevents us from seeing the things that they are. And by gathering knowledge, how it would be if we would be without a handicap. And the more we understand about how the handicap works and how it is obstructing us from seeing reality, and the more we know how reality is in actuality, that is like creating a pathway through that handicap, or I don't know how to say that, but that handicap at the end is not a handicap anymore. The more we know about a handicap, the more we know about how it is to be without a handicap, the less the handicap will be a handicap, the less it will obstruct us. And eventually we might be able to train our mind in a way that it is totally gone. See that you have that capacity. But that capacity lays in your wisdom mind. That capacity lays within knowledge, within understanding, within asking the right questions, within investigating whatever appears in front of you. And so as long as we can't see the nature of reality, it is important that we are kind to them, that we don't have unrealistic expectations of ourselves. We have a great opportunity being born as human beings, having a mind maybe I should say having a brain that can think, having an intellectual capacity that can reflect on the nature of reality. So in this period of time, even if it is short human life, we can use that to get a real understanding about how it exists. And whatever knowledge we gather in this life, we take with us next month, which will help us to continuously create less suffering, less suffering, less suffering. This is a great opportunity. No matter where you are on the path, no matter how much you know now, no matter what you have done before, this is a great opportunity. And then you can conclude the meditation by making your own conclusion. Where is the essence of the process? And then we can finish the meditation. If you feel ready, you can open your eyes. And then we have a little break till 3. And then we come back for another hour of teaching, questions. All right. See you at 3 o'clock.